Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to NoDQ&A video right here on NoDQ.com, as well as the YouTube channel and NoDQ&A videos affiliate, ringsidenews.com. We have TNA Bound For Glory coming up this Sunday, but there's a lot of speculation about TNA's future. This could end up being a very significant week in wrestling history. Got your questions here regarding TNA and other topics. First one today comes from Mr. Yuck. TNA signs new contracts with talent. Rumors abound of selling the company. Your full take on the situation. It's not looking good for TNA. The reports going around are that TNA is in dire straits and they're running out of time. They literally do not have money apparently to run the pay-per-view this Sunday, and if they do not have the money to run the pay-per-view, they would be in breach of contract with the pay-per-view providers, and the whole thing would be a disaster. And TNA is definitely not in good shape. This is something that's been no secret for several years now, but at some point something has to give. TNA has somehow managed to survive time and time again, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm not a fan of people losing their jobs. I think it sucks, but TNA is a company that is really just hanging by a thread, and this really could be it for them. I mean, there's three options. Either TNA files for bankruptcy, TNA gets sold to somebody like Billy Corgan and somehow manages to exist, or WWE buys TNA and WWE acquires the library, maybe some talents, and that's the end of TNA. One of those three things looks like it's going to happen sooner than later, and it could happen within the next couple days. Now, how soon will this happen? I got this question here from Dan. How long before we know about Bound for Glory being canceled? That's the thing. They really have until Friday to figure out the financial situation and get the funding for the pay-per-view. If they do not have the funding by the weekend, then they're totally screwed. Really, Friday, I think, is the cutoff date where they would have to have something figured out. Now, will Billy Corgan pump more money into TNA without having the actual full ownership of the company? That remains to be seen. That could happen. Billy Corgan could step in and fund the Bound for Glory pay-per-view, but who knows how much longer. Even if Bound for Glory does take place on Sunday, who knows how much longer Billy Corgan will be able to keep pumping in money into the product until it's considered to be a lost cause and just flushing money down the toilet. It's all a big question mark right now, but of course NoDQ.com will have you updated with the very latest regarding the TNA situation and Bound for Glory. Stay tuned to the website for all the latest updates on that. Moving on here, this one comes from Oscar. Word is that WWE wants to bring in Broken Matt. Do you think creative will ruin the character, or will Matt have control? I think we will see Matt Hardy in WWE again, whether it's very soon because of the TNA sale or whenever Matt's TNA deal expires. I think it's inevitable that Matt and Jeff will be back in a WWE ring again someday, much like the Dudley Boys, but I think perhaps with a bigger push, since the Hardys were overall bigger stars in WWE than the Dudley Boys, and you know, Jeff was a former world champion, and Matt has reinvented himself with this Broken Matt character. I think WWE might let him do that character to some degree, but at the same time, it's not a WWE creation, and that's why I think there's a chance we might not see a whole lot of that character, if anything at all. What I think is going to happen, if I was going to make a prediction, is that Matt and Jeff will come back as the Hardy Boys, old school, just like they were in the early 2000s, and that will be their gimmick. They'll just straight up be the Hardy Boys and no Broken Matt and Brother Nero. That's just my gut feeling on it. I think that WWE will look to bring them in as a nostalgia act rather than having them do their TNA characters, just because it's not a WWE creation. And I think WWE, looking at it from their perspective, they will want to have the Hardys like their former WWE characters, and that's how they would be the most marketable. That's just how I see it. Alright, this one comes from the Big-Headed Bastard, or just the Big Head Bastard. Biggest career comeback, Y2J or Matt Hardy? I would say Chris Jericho because he's made his comeback in WWE on the biggest stage possible. Matt Hardy has no doubt made a comeback, but it's in TNA. Now, if Matt and Jeff come back to WWE and have a very successful run in the company, then that could rival Chris Jericho's comeback, but that is a tough act to measure up to. Chris Jericho has made one of the best comebacks in WWE more than once. First that 2008-2009 comeback, and now here in 2016, Jericho has proven that he is in fact one of the all-time greatest, and it's going to be tough for anybody to make a comeback at the level of Chris Jericho, but if anybody can do it, it would be Matt and Jeff Hardy for sure. This one comes from Gene Cute. Hey Aaron, if Cody Rhodes is not allowed to use his WWE name, can he use the name Cody Rhodes, Roads, like how Taz went to Taz with 2 Z's? I think he could, but actually I'm not even sure if he could or not because it would be considered too close to the Rhodes name. The whole thing is so stupid, first of all. I mean, it's ridiculous that WWE is making a big deal out of this. Just like Cody be Cody Rhodes. What's the big deal? The other thing is, I doubt Cody would want to do that just because it would come off as disrespectful to the Rhodes name. You know, that's not his name. It's Rhodes, and that is his father's name, and I don't think he would want to change the name to something tacky like that. I just don't think they would even bother doing that, either Cody Rhodes or TNA. Well, who knows with TNA, maybe they would consider something like that. I don't know. But I highly doubt it. I think he should just be Cody Runnels. If WWE is going to make a big deal out of the Rhodes name, then if he's going to have a last name, just let it be Runnels. That's how I see it. I think just using the name Cody without a last name is silly, but you know, whatever Cody wants to do is what he's going to do. This one comes from Daniel Jobber. Assuming Seth Rollins versus Triple H at WrestleMania 33 as expected, do you think Seth will go in as the Universal Champion as fans seem to want, or will it be Owens? I would go with Owens. I think that if you're gonna have Seth Rollins versus Triple H at WrestleMania, that match does not need to be for the title. Triple H does not need to be in the title match at WrestleMania. That's ridiculous. I would much rather see Kevin Owens be a strong, dominant champion from now until WrestleMania, and then have Finn Balor perhaps win the Royal Rumble if he's ready in time. If not, have somebody from SmackDown win the Royal Rumble, and then have Finn Balor win at the February pay-per-view, bring back Elimination Chamber, have Balor win that, and then go on to challenge Owens at WrestleMania. That's the way I would do it, at least. I think that Owens versus Finn Balor, or Owens versus whoever his opponent is, would definitely benefit from having the Universal title on the line. Rollins versus Triple H, they have the huge backstory. Triple H, he's got the star power. They really don't need the title being on the line. Got this one here from Carlitos. Out of all the rumored matches for Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 33, which is the more likely match? Rock, Goldberg, or build-up Samoa Joe? Realistically, most likely, I think The Rock would be the most likely of those 3 opponents because WWE would see the most value in The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. That would be considered the top box office draw of those 3 possible matches. Goldberg would be a big match, and Joe, as much as I would like to see it, and I think WWE should do it, my guess is they're not going to build up Joe to that level. As much as it pains me to say that, I think Joe would be great in that role to be built up as this monster to face Brock Lesnar and beat Brock Lesnar. I think Joe would be the right guy for that. I just don't think WWE is going to do it. My gut feeling is they're not going to push Joe at that level that quickly and invest that much into him. So of those 3 people, I think The Rock is the most likely. I think The Rock would be WWE's top pick for sure if they had the choice in the matter. This one comes from Wrestling Addict 93. Why is Smackdown killing Raw with storylines, storytelling, and presentation, etc. every week and now pay-per-view? Well, for one thing, when it comes to the TV shows, SmackDown is 2 hours. That will give them an advantage right there. As far as the pay-per-views go, I mean, it's only been 1 month, so it's really hard to judge. Let's see how things go after 3 or 4 months of pay-per-views. Some might say SmackDown has a better roster. When you have AJ Styles on top, I mean, it's hard to say. There are some creative differences, some different people on Raw, some different people on SmackDown, so that could also play a role in it, although at the end of the day, it's still Vince McMahon making the final shots for both shows. So I just think, as far as the TV shows go, because SmackDown is a shorter show and they're able to focus on the storylines more. With Raw, they're trying to fill time up, with the 3 hours, and you get a lot of filler. With SmackDown, it's straight to the point. So that's why SmackDown's definitely having the better TV shows. This one comes from B0BIS, or BOBIS, not sure. If CM Punk were to return to WWE, what do you think his spot should be? Putting talent over or back to the top of the ladder? If CM Punk came back to WWE, I would put him on top. I mean, CM Punk is still getting chance at WWE events. He got chance at Clash of Champions. He got chance on Raw. CM Punk made an impression in WWE, whether WWE wants to admit it, whether fans want to admit it. CM Punk left a huge mark in the WWE brand. So if CM Punk were to come back one day, you would absolutely put him in the main event and put him in top marquee matches. I mean, if you're going to bother bringing back Punk, you might as well go all the way with him and make the biggest deal out of it possible. For him to come back and just put over people seems to not make the most out of CM Punk's name value. He's not The Rock or Stone Cold in terms of popularity, but he still was one of the bigger stars of the past decade, and if you bring him back, you should bring him back in the biggest way possible. This one comes from Jared J. Smith. Hey Aaron, what did you think of Roddy Piper's run in WCW? I really enjoyed the feud with Hogan when Piper first came in. I thought that made a huge impact on WCW in a positive way. It got more people interested in WCW, and it really elevated the NWO storyline and took that to a whole new level. I think that Piper did well in the commissioner role when he wasn't wrestling. The problem is that Piper was already well past his prime physically. So by 97, his work was really starting to decline, and that Hogan-Piper cage match, I think Starrcade was tolerable, and it was more about the storyline than anything else. The storyline really carried it. Same thing with the Super Brawl match, but by the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, it had run its course, and that match was terrible. Really awful match. And pretty much all Piper's matches after that were just really bad. And by 98 and into 99, he had worn out his welcome in WCW, and it was pretty much a flop that last year when he was in WCW. This one comes from Camran. What do you think about Cena versus Reigns for the Universal title at WrestleMania 33 with Cena cheating to finally equal Ric Flair's record? On paper, it sounds like a nice idea, but Cena is not going to be a heel going against Roman Reigns, and a heel turn is not going to work against Roman Reigns. If you were ever going to turn John Cena, you would not put him in there with Roman Reigns. That's for damn sure. That's just going to have the complete opposite effect with everybody cheering Cena. So that would not really accomplish much. Now, Cena versus Reigns, I like the idea, but again, going back to earlier with Seth Rollins and Triple H, it's not a match that needs to be for the world title. I think Cena versus Reigns, they're two big enough stars that match alone would sell just on the star power. It doesn't need to be for a championship. So I would not even put them in a title match if they were ever going to face off at WrestleMania. Got this one here from Grant. Who do you think should induct Undertaker and The Rock into the Hall of Fame? I think for Undertaker, I would consider having Vince induct Undertaker, just because Undertaker has been one of the longest reigning characters in WWE history. Maybe the longest. He's going on what? almost 30 years, 26 years now since he came into WWE. By the time he goes into the Hall of Fame, it could be 30 years. And that is huge. I mean, few characters have had that longevity, and I would consider Vince for that. I think Vince would be very fitting. For The Rock, I think I would go with Stone Cold. I mean, who was The Rock's greatest rival? Stone Cold. They had 3 WrestleMania matches. They had tons of other matches against each other, and they were the 2 biggest stars of the Attitude Era. I think Austin would be the no-brainer choice. It could be Triple H, but I think Austin would be more fitting. This one comes from Zubair. Do you think that Edge versus Undertaker, aka one of the last TV 14 Ruthless Aggression era rivalries, was it underrated? I do not think it was underrated. I think a lot of people consider that to be one of the best feuds of that period. I will say that I've actually said this before. I think the WrestleMania match is a little bit overrated. That's just my opinion. A lot of people love that match, and I think it's a very good match. But I also felt Undertaker had several better WrestleMania matches. I thought the match with Orton was better. I thought the match with Batista was better. I just felt it wasn't one of the top Undertaker WrestleMania matches. But, you know, a lot of people like it. And I also never thought Edge had a chance of breaking the streak. So that was one thing that I wasn't really a big fan of with that match. But overall, they had a tremendous feud. I mean, going back to 2007 when Edge cashed in Money in the Bank, and they had the feud going into 2008 with Vicky, and then they had that TLC match. That's actually, if there's anything underrated about that feud, it would be that TLC match from the Extreme Rules pay-per-view in 2008. That was a great match. I really enjoyed that one. And then, of course, they had the Hell in the Cell match. So, yeah, they had a tremendous rivalry. I mean, it was one of the best of that period for sure. And I really don't consider it to be underrated. I think it is considered to be one of the highest rated feuds of that era. That'll do it for this edition of No DQ&A video. Thanks as always for watching. Again, the whole situation with TNA is ongoing. There could be new developments at any time. NoDQ.com. Stay tuned. Facebook.com/NoDQDOTCOM. Like the page, you get the latest updates. Twitter.com/NoDQDOTCOM. You can subscribe to the tweets. You can get the latest tweets sent right to your mobile device. And that way you can stay up to date with all the latest going on in the world of WWE and TNA. That'll do it for this video. I will see you guys next time.